Oh, Dave.
All right, so John's brought some more amazing models by, and why don't you tell us a little bit about these? Because I'm new to Prairie Shadows, but he's always telling me about them.
This is a newer company that finally got into their own HO scale cars. I see they're also doing their own N scale. They've been around for a little bit. They've been doing a lot of custom painted stuff, kind of with Intermountain for HO scale freight cars, and N scale trucks and stuff like that. So these are the Trenton Works 5250 covered hoppers.
All right.
Any Canadian modeler is definitely familiar with seeing these, especially in the Prairie Malt Limited, the Saskatchewan Pool. You're used to seeing that. In later times, they've now been patched to NOKL, NS patches, so they're a very common grain product. They have a lot of different nice features, and they've come out with these.
Awesome. And it looks like these are 3 of the different paint schemes they came out with?
Correct. They did 6 different ones overall. The Canadian National ones, unfortunately, did have to go back to China, or fortunately for me, because then that allowed me to pre-order another 12 cars, because they're not supposed to be back until January.
Yeah.
So it gives me the time to build up the money, the finances again, to get those cars.
Okay.
Because these were solid cars overall.
They're beautiful cars, and they ran great today. I don't think there were any issues with these.
Backing up, I don't know if it's just some of the couplers and a little bit of a coupler swing and a little bit too flexible inside the coupler pocket. Didn't like to back up on some cases. Overall, though, I had no issues running them. But like I said, they had the Canadian National. They did the Prairie Malt Limiteds. They did 12 Canadian National road numbers, 6 Prairie Malt Limiteds, 6 Saskatchewan Pools, which is the white one, 6 FURX, which I only got 2 of those road numbers, and now I wish I would have gotten the other 4, but
it is what it is.
It is what it is, and cost-wise, I did get 6 of the NOKL patched ones, but I had so many, they didn't have a big enough box that was sturdy enough to make it in shipping, so those will be with me on Monday.
Gotcha,
in
okay.
hopes. And then they did the NS patched pool cars.
All right.
I don't personally have a use for a lot of the NS patch stuff. It looks good. It's nothing against it. I just don't have a lot of purpose for myself.
Okay. Well, these are the 3 cars. The descriptions are facing you with the appropriate railroad. So let's get these boxes out of the way, get these on their sides, backs, and ends, and take a look. All right, well, why don't you show us around these new cars? It seems like there's already some differences you can spot that make each railroad a little bit more unique.
There was 5 different variations of the cars that were done. I don't know if all the tooling was done for all 5. I've had a lot of conversations with them about these cars, about arrival times and suggestions, and just talking. And Jeff's been really good about getting back to me and messaging me, and just a little bit of chit chat, which is something from a small manufacturer, even if it was a large one. It's great. Keeps people happy, keeps them interested. I had a lot of updates, a lot of good communication, awesome all-around experience with them. But I know there was at least 2 different variations with this current run of this first runs. I don't have the paperwork with me. You can look at Prairie Shadow's website and see the variations. But immediately of note, and you can see the differences here between the FURX and the Prairie Malt, you can just see it with the grates and the gates.
Oh, yeah. So here, just kind of pointing out some of the things I can spot right away, is you've got the shaking points or the vibrator points there, and you don't really have those here. Or are those just different ones? It looks like just a plate there, maybe?
Yeah, it looks like it might just be a plate right there.
So you'd strike that with a big sledgehammer or a small, whatever they use. I honestly don't know. But yeah, you can see the details. You get the nice piping underneath and everything. That's pretty sharp.
Correct. And I don't remember if the end brake detail was different or the same on these 2 models. Might be a little bit easier to see the brake detail, because I know the UMPs were set up very similar to the Prairie Malts. If there's any real differences there. But you might still be able to see some of the differences. And just the amount of detail that were shoved into these is phenomenal for what these cars can be. We've seen covered hoppers before, and you can get a lot of detail crammed into a small car.
Absolutely, you can.
But at the same time, there's not much to a covered hopper, except for brake detail. So, but standard etched metal walkways, they're beautiful. Not necessarily the smoothest, Again, as we've discussed in other videos, these are hand-built models. If anybody has any experience building the old Intermountain cylindrical hopper kits, it is a nightmare to get all these stanchions straight for those walkways.
But you know what? Something I've noticed with these that I don't see always done right on other cars with metal walkways is they're flat. They're not wavy.
No, these have, other than they're wavy, if it's one where the stanchion got pushed in a little bit too far. Otherwise, the walkway itself is flat. You have the natural dip that is on the actual cars on the walkways down. But beyond that, one was straight. It was solid.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they come with 1, metal wheels, 2, and with metal axles, and 2, semi-skilled metal couplers. And what was the price on these?
These were $49.99 retail. If you had ordered 13 or more, you got a 15% discount.
So I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't order.
$42.50.
I don't know anyone who doesn't have a number of covered hoppers. If you're doing anything with covered hoppers, you've probably got quite a few. So I mean, it's not hard to order a dozen, I feel like. And if you get a price break, it's definitely a promotion.
No, it's definitely worth ordering the 13 of them that I ordered in total off the first run 20, and when the CNs come back, it'll technically be 32 out of the potential 12 plus another 30, 42 cars. The only ones I won't have the other 4 FURX numbers unless I get them elsewhere, or the NS patches. But overall, I never noticed too many issues. I did have one, and it could have been me fat fingering it. It could have been something from factory, as getting these out of the containers, they are very tight in there. Trying to adjust it real quick here anyways. Surprisingly, these are actually very durable cars overall from being tipped over. I didn't have any real issues with that. On this one here, I did notice that this little area got cracked. I don't know if it was from me. It could have been from factory. It's a small, very thin plastic part.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. A little weathering and a little excess of glue, and you look like it got welded back together.
Not quite. I'd say about 2 feet away from it, and I can't even see it from here.
I only noticed it looking up closer at it just now.
Yeah.
But like I said, a little glue, a little extra weathering, and it looks like it was welded and replaced and repaired.
Yeah.
You know, not a major deal. Overall, a solid car. The one thing I know myself I like, no roller bearing caps on the trucks.
Now, a lot of people would say, oh, well, for this price range, they should probably have them. Well, I think that price range has gone up probably another $10 to $15 a car.
Easily.
When you're getting them with a scale trains, rivet counter, Athearn, Genesis, Tangent. But when you're at this price point, things have gone up considerably in the last couple of years. I don't think this is that price point anymore. But I definitely put these on the level of Intermountain, with the bonus being you get semi-scale couplers and maybe a little bit more detail.
You're on par. More prototype-specific details, more accurate there.
Okay.
Detail-wise, you're still solid on both cars. Both Intermountain and these Prairie Shadows, detail-wise, are perfect. But on these Prairie Shadows, you're getting a lot more of the specific details to these paint schemes, whereas Intermountain, while they are gorgeously detailed, you don't always necessarily get the unit and road specific details like a Scale Trains is doing. That's what Prairie Shadows did here, which is great, but you also have the more Intermountain price point, and so a few less details, no roller bearing trucks, which, again, I'm all for, but overall, you're still getting a great value for the cost.
Awesome, yeah, and these are beautiful cars. I'd be happy to have some on my layout. And if I recall, the weight is pretty good. The weight's nice on those.
Yeah, the weight is solid on them. I don't think there's any real issue with the weight. Trackability, I had no issues. The few derailments I had were all going slow in reverse, trying to get around tighter areas. Nothing wrong. On this layout, I didn't fully get a chance to run them up the mountain, but just a couple laps around, and we'll get a couple more laps in and try to maybe get them up the mountain and up to the top. But there's no issues. This is a layout that can be very rough on freight cars.
Yeah.
We've had Tangents, Scale Trains, Broca, the highest of detailed models we can get in plastic, and we're flinging detail pieces off like Rapido says, like it was made next to a Mexican jumping bean factory. But these, nothing has flown off. I did notice, I mean, yes, and the one thing I did see, there is a lot of play and enough play between here and that brake line detail.
Yeah, and that's something we've noticed on some other cars, but you know what, it seems like some manufacturers do a better job than others, and especially on freight cars, I feel like that's pretty critical because you're going to be moving stuff around. Like you've got that pick there we use for uncoupling, and if you move that coupler a little too much, you know, it might break that off, or you might damage the coupler pocket.
Very easily can do either one, so.
Awesome.
The one thing I will say is the boxes were just a hair too small for the clamshell packaging.
I know we've noticed that with a couple different manufacturers as well.
And it's slightly annoying, especially if you're a person that likes the packaging to be perfect. I come from a little bit of a printing background, and those things probably got packaged hot when they made the boxes for them. So the paint design, the inking, very well faded on some areas. Probably wasn't the best varnished. But that's a printing side of things that I noticed. Yeah. Something small for me, but the boxes and the color design on the box, it's an A+ for me. They're a solid look. Overall, I highly recommend these cars. Are there a few flaws? Yeah, for some people. Are there a few issues? A tiny amount of issues with runnability, and I think that, I don't know if it's car specific or not, but just the couplers have a little bit of sway in the pockets, a little bit, and that's what was causing those derailments. Otherwise, a solid car, solid price point, definitely worth picking up if you can get some.
Awesome, cool. Well, thanks again for sharing your models with us. This is a really cool example, something that just came out and obviously hot on the shipping. I look forward to seeing some others, and maybe we'll get those on a review to see some different paint schemes and reveal a few more things. I'm really looking forward to seeing those Canadian cars come in January when they get fixed up. It's really nice that a manufacturer's really paying attention and just saying no when something's done wrong.
Yes. I was talking to Jeff about it, and they posted an update on their Facebook. It comes down to they sent them back because of the issue, but they sent out what they could.
Yeah.
So they did the best of both worlds to the best of their ability. They sent and shipped what they could, sent back what they couldn't, and that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's a big difference, like versus what Scale Trains had to deal with, which was damaged parts, which can be fixed or repaired, and they did it at an extreme discount. Whereas a paint job, that's not necessarily something you want to leave up to a modeler to fix. Walters had something happen years ago with the cylindrical hoppers, and it had Canadian spelled
French on both sides.
Yeah, French on both sides as opposed to English on one, French on the other. And you know what? To some people, it doesn't matter. For one, that's a Walters
mainline car. You're only looking at one
car.
side of the car anyways.
Yeah, and you know, but something like this, when you're paying twice as much, if not more, for a freight car, to get those prototype specific details per road name, sometimes to the road number. You know, that's part of why you buy it. So I'm really glad that they took the time to send it back and eat all that cost.
Correct. I mean, that's amazing. And when you look at the detailing, especially on some of the stamping and everything for the Prairie malt, for example, is my prime example. If you look at it closer, Sean, yourself, look at all the... There it is on this side. Just look at the emblem. That is sharp. It is crisp.
Absolutely it is.
You can look up to it. You can easily read what it says for the most part. Some of the other warnings you can't necessarily read that easily, but all the important details are there. It's crisp. It's legible. Those little details are what makes these kind of cars amazing, especially for the price point.
Absolutely. And like you said, that lettering is so crisp. I'm wondering if I can zoom in much more. You can really see how good some of this lettering is here.
Yeah, that's
jack and lift here.
Granted, I wish those reflectors were actual reflectors, but...
Well, you can get those from Smokebox Graphics or some other places. But yeah, there's the Herald, man. That is just beautiful.
The Herald is gorgeous. And then over here, there's one little warning placard that's kind of hard to read right there. I can't even necessarily read it, but the fact that it's there.
And you can see the individual letters. It's not like it's a black outline silver or white box with some stamping on it. It's like you can see that you can... you're not going to make that out, but you can see the effort was put into it.
Exactly, and maybe with the right magnification, you can make that out.
Yeah, that's not happening with this phone right now, but that's awesome. These are just stunning cars. I'm glad you bought them because I get to enjoy them without having to the cost.
Yeah, and really and truly, cost-wise, these are reasonable. This
Absolutely.
100% reasonable.
Yeah, because you're paying upwards of almost $50 for a gondola or for a covered hopper now from some brands. I mean, Tangent's gone up, Exact Rail, Athearn Genesis.
The 3 C&Ws that Arrowhead did are $65 a piece.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a little bit more detail to them, but $65 a covered hopper. Buying in bulk like I did, I got them for the $42.50.
Yeah.
And that is a steal of a price.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again for sharing these beautiful models with us and taking the time to tell us about them and show us around. And check out Prairie Shadows today because I didn't know about it and John's been pulling my ear about it. I finally looked at it and they've got some really cool stuff and actually they have some amazing prices on stuff. You need to check out their website. I'll put a link below. And you guys, thanks for watching Sean's Trains. Please like,
Also,
share, and subscribe.
As a quick update, they are also doing 50-foot Trinity boxcars specifically as their next freight car that they're looking into doing, and is in, I think it actually might be in production now. So
Nice.
check out those paint schemes that they're doing. They're doing the proper red SRYs for any Canadian modeler or essentially any northern United States modeler. As a lot of those kind of just transition between the two. Look into them. You know, it's a couple of guys that have regular 9-to-5 jobs to pay the bills, but they're doing this. They're trying to put out the best product they can.
Absolutely. And it looks like they're doing a good job. Cool. Well, thanks again. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.